In the heart of Leonier, Pennsylvania, Sarah Mitchell, a robust woman in her mid-40s with a caring smile that often concealed her business acumen, stood behind the counter of her small grocery store. It was more than just a business to her. It was a testament to years of hard work and dedication. Sarah and her husband, Tom, had poured their hearts into this store, transforming it from a mere idea into a bustling hub that had nurtured their community for over a decade. On this particular morning, the sun filtered through the large front windows, casting warm patches of light across the aisles stocked with everything from fresh produce to canned goods. The bell above the door chimed frequently as patrons came and went, each greeted by Sarah with a nod and a genuine smile. "Morning, Joe," Sarah called out as a regular. An elderly man with a slow gait entered the store. "How's the knee holding up today?" "It's giving me less trouble than the wife is," Joe joked, his voice gruff but friendly. He leaned on his cane, smiling broadly. "Got any of those cherry pies left? You know, the ones Doris can't get enough of." "Saved one just for you," Sarah replied, her eyes twinkling. She reached under the counter, producing the pie. "Can't have you going home empty-handed, can we?" "You're a lifesaver, Sarah. What would this town do without you?" Joe chuckled, taking the pie and adding, "Put it on my tab, of course." "Of course, Joe. Give Doris my best," she responded, writing the addition into his tab in her ledger, a practice becoming increasingly common as the townsfolk struggled with the economic downturn. Business had been good once, but lately, things had been tough. The economic downturn had hit Leonier hard, and the foot traffic in her store had noticeably decreased. It worried her, not just for the sake of her livelihood, but for her neighbors and friends whose faces she had come to know so well. Her reverie was broken by the arrival of another familiar face. Karen, a middle-aged woman with sharp features and a brisk manner, approached the counter with a basket slightly less full than usual. "Sarah, have you heard about the layoffs over at the mill?" Karen asked, her voice low as she unloaded her basket. "Bill's job is on the line, and we're tightening the belt where we can." Sarah's heart sank. "I'm so sorry to hear that, Karen. Times are tough all around, it seems. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help, even if it's just making sure you get the best deals when you come in here." "That means a lot, Sarah." "Really it does," Karen said, offering a small smile as she handed over a few bills. "We'll get through this somehow." After Karen left, Sarah leaned against the counter, her mind racing with worry not only for her own future, but for the entire community. She made a mental note to discuss with Tom what more they could do to help, whether it was extending their credit terms even further or organizing some kind of community support effort. Her contemplation was interrupted by a slight movement at the corner of her eye. She turned to see a small figure near the bread aisle. A young black girl, unfamiliar and looking a bit out of place, was stealthily sliding a loaf of bread under her blouse. Sarah watched, her brows furrowing in concern rather than anger. Who was this child? Why was she stealing? Rather than confront her immediately, Sarah decided to watch and wait. There was more to this situation than met the eye, and she felt a deep instinctual urge to understand rather than judge. The day wore on with the girl's image haunting Sarah's thoughts. It wasn't just the theft that troubled her, but the loneliness and desperation that seemed to emanate from the young stranger. As the store's clock ticked toward closing time, Sarah made a resolution. She would find out who this girl was, and she would help her, no matter what it took. The next morning, as the dew still clung to the windows of the small grocery store, Sarah unlocked the doors with a deep sense of purpose. She had spent a restless night thinking about the young girl, her actions replaying in her mind. The child's tentative glances, her nervous demeanor. It all spoke of a dire need. Sarah was behind the counter rearranging the cash register when the familiar chime of the store door announced the arrival of the first customer. She looked up, half expecting to see one of her regulars, but her heart skipped a beat when she saw the small, hunched figure of the girl sneaking in again. The child glanced around nervously, unaware that she was being watched. Determined to handle the situation with care, Sarah slowly walked around the counter, approaching the girl with a gentle smile. "Good morning. I see you're back. Hungry, aren't you?" she asked in the softest tone she could muster. The girl, startled, looked up with wide, fearful eyes. She clutched a loaf of bread a little tighter under her shirt. It's okay. You can have that. Why don't you come over here and I'll get you something more to eat? Sarah continued, gesturing to the bakery section adorned with freshly baked cookies and muffins. Reluctantly, the girl approached, her steps hesitant. Sarah picked a chocolate chip muffin and handed it to her. Here, eat this. You look like you could use a good meal. The girl took the muffin, her small hands trembling. Thank you, she whispered, barely audible over the hum of the refrigerators. Sarah nodded, her eyes softening. What's your name, dear? I haven't seen you around before. The girl nibbled on the muffin, her gaze darting around as if looking for an escape route. I can't say, she murmured after a long pause. That's all right. You don't have to tell me anything you're not comfortable with, Sarah reassured her, her voice as comforting as a warm blanket. But if you ever need a safe place or someone to talk to, you can come here. Can you tell me if there's anything else you need? Maybe more food to take with you. The girl shook her head slowly, her eyes still wary but a hint of curiosity behind her guarded demeanor. No, just the bread. Sarah's heart ached with the child's palpable fear and distrust, but she knew pushing too hard could scare her away. Okay, but remember, my door is always open to you, and there's always more food if you're hungry. The girl finished her muffin, gave a small nod, and then quickly made her way towards the door, the loaf of bread still under her shirt. Sarah watched her go, a deep worry settling in her chest. She had so many questions. Who was taking care of this child, and why was she fending for herself? But no answers. As the girl disappeared down the street, Sarah made a quiet vow to keep an eye on her. If she returned, Sarah would try again to breach the walls the young one had built around herself. For now, all she could do was wait and hope that the child felt the sincerity of her offer and knew that she had found an ally in Sarah. Days turned into a week since the young girl last visited Sarah's store. Each morning, Sarah would unlock the door with a growing sense of unease, her eyes often drifting to the spot where she'd last seen the child clutching a loaf of bread. The absence of the girl's quiet, desperate visits left a hollow feeling in the pit of Sarah's stomach. Anything wrong, Sarah? You seem distracted today, remarked Tom one afternoon, his brow furrowed with concern as he watched his wife gaze out of the front window. Sarah sighed, turning to her husband with a troubled expression. It's that little girl, the one I told you about. She hasn't been back since I gave her that muffin. I'm worried about her, Tom. It's not right, a child fending for herself like that. Tom nodded, his face lined with empathy. You've got a big heart, Sarah. Maybe she's just scared, but you're right to be concerned. Keep an eye out. She'll likely come back when she's hungry enough. As if on cue, the very next day, the bell above the door chimed mid-morning, and the girl shuffled in. This time, her appearance struck a sharper pang of worry in Sarah's heart. The child's clothes were not only dirtier but also more tattered, her face smudged with grime and her eyes dulled with fatigue. Sarah wasted no time. She approached the girl with even more gentleness than before, her voice soft and inviting. Hello again. I was hoping I'd see you. You look like you could use a friend. She paused, giving the girl space to adjust to her presence. Why don't you come back with me to the bakery section? I've got some fresh apple turnovers today. You'll love them. The girl hesitated, her body tense as if ready to bolt at any moment. Yet hunger won over fear, and she nodded silently, following Sarah to the counter where the turnovers were displayed under a glass dome. As Sarah plated a turnover, she kept the conversation light, trying to pierce the veil of the girl's reticence. You know, when I was about your age, my mother used to make apple pies on Sundays. I always got to lick the spoon, she shared, hoping a personal story might coax the girl into opening up. The girl took the turnover, her eyes momentarily brightening at the mention of food, but she remained silent, nibbling on the edge of the pastry. Sarah continued watching the girl closely. Can I ask you something? Where do you go when you're not here? Is there someone looking after you? This time the girl paused, her eyes flickering with an unspoken struggle. Finally, she whispered, No, just me. The simplicity of her admission hit Sarah hard, her resolve firming. That's a heavy load for such small shoulders, she said quietly. You shouldn't have to be alone like this. Sarah decided it was time to take a more active step. Listen, why don't I walk with you today? I'd like to make sure you're safe. Is that okay? The girl looked up, fear and hope warring in her eyes. After a long moment, she nodded, setting the turnover aside and wiping her hands on her pants. With a deep breath, Sarah motioned towards the door. Let's go then, dear. You lead the way. They walked in silence, Sarah keeping her pace slow to match the girls. The street stretched on, leading them away from the busier parts of town into areas Sarah rarely visited. The houses here bore the marks of neglect, with peeling paint and overgrown yards. It was a part of Leonier she had heard about but never truly seen, and it pained her to realize that such poverty existed so close to her own life. Finally, they stopped in front of a dilapidated house at the end of a narrow alley. The windows were dark, the yard unkempt. The girl paused, her body tense, before she moved towards the door. As Sarah followed, preparing herself to face whatever lay inside. She knew her life and the lives of those she was about to encounter were about to change forever. Sarah's heart pounded with a mix of dread and determination as she stood at the threshold of the shabby house. The girl, her small hand on the doorknob, paused and looked up at Sarah with a seriousness far beyond her years. Before we go in, I need to tell you something, the girl whispered, her voice barely audible. It's not just me. I have a little brother, and our mom is inside. She's really sick. I take care of them. Sarah knelt down, bringing herself to eye level with the girl. You're doing a very important job, she said softly, her eyes searching the child. What are your names? I'm Chloe, and my brother is Noah, the girl replied, her voice slightly stronger. And your mom? Sarah asked gently. She's not been herself for a long time. She's addicted to hard drugs. Chloe's voice trembled as she spoke. Sarah's heart clenched. The weight of Chloe's world was immense for such young shoulders. Memories of her own childhood flashed in her mind. The days of tiptoeing around a volatile father, the nights she comforted her younger brother, whispering promises of a better tomorrow. It was a past she had long buried under layers of time and healing. But Chloe's situation peeled it all back with startling clarity. You're not alone anymore, Chloe. I'm here with you now. Okay? Let's go meet your family, Sarah said, her voice firm with resolve. Chloe nodded, and together they pushed the door open. The interior of the house was as heart-wrenching as Sarah had feared. The air was stale, heavy with the smell of mold and neglect. Dim light filtered through curtains that looked like they hadn't been opened in months. The floor was littered with old newspapers and discarded clothes. Sarah's face twisted with concern as she stepped further into the living space, her senses overwhelmed by the dire state of the home. Every corner spoke of hardship and despair, the kind that digs deep into the bones of those it touches. This way, Chloe murmured, leading Sarah through a narrow hallway to a small room where a thin, frail figure lay on a makeshift bed. The room, like the rest of the house, was in disarray, but it was clear that Chloe had tried to keep it as clean as possible under the circumstances. Sarah approached the bed slowly, her eyes taking in the woman who was evidently in the throes of addiction. Despite the squalor, there was a dignity about her that remained unbroken. As Sarah drew closer, the woman's eyes fluttered open, meeting hers with a lucidity that belied her physical frailty. Hello, Sarah said softly, introducing herself. I'm a friend of Chloe's. She's been taking good care of you. The woman attempted a weak smile, her voice a raspy whisper. Thank you for coming. I've been so worried for the children. Sarah reached out, taking the woman's hand gently. I'm here to help however I can. Chloe has been very brave, but you all need more support. Turning to Chloe, who stood by the door with her eyes wide and fearful, Sarah beckoned her closer. Chloe, you've done an amazing job. Let me help you now. We'll make sure your mom gets the care she needs, and you and Noah too. The raw reality of the scene before her, the addiction, the poverty, the children's bravery, reaffirmed Sarah's commitment. She knew leaving them in this situation was not an option. She had the means to change their lives, and she felt a deep personal connection to their struggle. As she stood in that dimly lit room, surrounded by the palpable presence of suffering, Sarah made a silent promise to not only assist this family, but to embrace them into her life, recalling her own escape from a childhood marred by fear and promising a different future for Chloe and Noah. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's grocery store began to witness a new routine. Chloe, always holding her brother Noah's hand, would come to the store every morning. The siblings, once shy and reserved, gradually opened up under Sarah's nurturing presence. Sarah had swiftly become a pillar of support for Chloe and Noah. She made sure they had breakfast every morning when they arrived at the store, often pancakes or oatmeal, which they ate at a small table she set up in the corner of the store. It was during these quiet mornings that Sarah learned more about their likes, dislikes, and the simple joys that children their age should be experiencing. You know, Chloe, Noah, Sarah started one day as she watched them help each other with their cereal. You two are becoming quite the helpers around here. How would you like to learn some more things around the store? Chloe's eyes lit up. Really? Can we help more? Yes, Sarah smiled. You can help me stack the shelves and maybe even learn to count the inventory. What do you think, Noah? Noah, a quiet boy with a thoughtful expression, nodded eagerly. I want to help too. From then on, Chloe and Noah became little helpers in Sarah's store. Chloe was quick to learn the prices of various items and enjoyed arranging them neatly on the shelves. Noah, meanwhile, took pride in organizing the fruit section, making sure the apples were shiny and the bananas were displayed attractively. Their presence brought a new energy to the store, and the regular customers praised Sarah for her kindness and the children for their manners and helpfulness. One afternoon, as the store quieted down, Sarah sat down with Chloe and Noah. I've been thinking, she began, her expression serious yet soft. You both should be in school, learning with other kids your age. What do you think about starting school soon? Chloe looked hesitant. But who will take care of Mom? Sarah reached out, taking Chloe's hand gently. I've arranged for someone to check on your mom during the day, a nurse who will help her and make sure she's comfortable. This way, you can go to school without worrying. She continued, turning to Noah, who was listening intently. You'll get to make new friends and learn so many exciting things. Will we learn to read books? Noah asked, his voice hopeful. Yes, you will, Sarah assured him with a nod. And much more. Over the next few days, Sarah took steps to enroll Chloe and Noah in the local elementary school. She ensured they had the necessary supplies, backpacks, books, and even new clothes. Watching them try on their school uniforms, Sarah felt a swell of pride. They looked every bit the eager students, ready to embark on a new adventure. On their first day of school, Sarah drove them, her car filled with nervous excitement. Remember, she said as they approached the school gates, this is a new start for both of you. I'm so proud of how brave you've been. Chloe and Noah clung to each other as they walked towards the school, turning back to wave at Sarah, who waved back, her heart full. Sarah's help transcended the walls of her store and the confines of her initial charity. It was a deeper commitment to ensuring that Chloe and Noah had a chance at a better life, one where they could dream and achieve without the shadow of their circumstances darkening their paths. This commitment, while born out of compassion, had grown into a profound bond that anchored them all in a shared journey of growth and hope. It was a crisp Tuesday morning when Sarah received a call that paused the routine hum of her store. The nurse she had hired to care for Chloe and Noah's mother during the day was on the other end, her voice tinged with urgency. Sarah, it's Judy. You need to come over. She's asking for you. Insists she has to talk to you about something important. Dropping everything, Sarah hurried to the car, her mind racing with concern. What could be so urgent? When Sarah arrived at the small, run-down house, she was greeted by Judy, who looked solemn. She's been waiting, Judy whispered, leading Sarah into the dimly lit room where the woman lay. The room was quiet, save for the soft breathing of the woman on the bed. Her eyes, though tired, brightened slightly when she saw Sarah. Sarah, she began, her voice weak but filled with a kind of desperate clarity. Thank you for coming. I don't know how much time I have left, and there are things you need to know about the children, about everything. Sarah took a chair beside the bed, taking the woman's hand gently. I'm here now. Tell me what's on your mind. The woman took a deep breath and her story unfolded, a tale of grief and resilience. Chloe and Noah, they lost their father to an overdose a few years ago. It was sudden and horrific. I've been their mother and their grandmother. Not long after, I found out I was sick, very sick. Sarah listened, each word etching deeper into her heart, her grip on the woman's hand tightening in silent support. The doctors have done what they can, but there's not much more they can do. I've been trying to keep going for the children, but I know I don't have much time left. Tears welled in her eyes, each one a silent testament to her fear for the future of Chloe and Noah. Sarah's own eyes mirrored those tears, her voice soft as she responded. You've been so strong, doing all you could for them. They're wonderful children, so brave, so loving. You've raised them well? The woman nodded, a frail smile crossing her features. I just want to know they'll be okay, that they won't have to struggle, won't be left alone when I'm gone. It's my biggest fear, Sarah. I understand, Sarah whispered, her decision clear and immediate. I promise you, they won't be alone. I'll make sure of that. Chloe and Noah will have a home with me as long as they need it. They'll have a future. The relief that flooded the woman's face was palpable. Thank you, she breathed out, her voice breaking. Thank you for giving me this peace. They talked for a while longer about the children's favorite foods, their fears, their dreams. All the little things she wanted Sarah to know. When it was time to leave, Sarah stood, leaned over, and gently kissed the woman's forehead. You rest now. I'll take care of everything, Sarah assured her, stepping out into the fading light of the day, her heart heavy but determined. Driving back to the store, Sarah's mind was a whirl of emotions and plans. This was not just a promise to a dying woman. It was a vow to two children who had already faced too much loss. Sarah was ready to step into whatever role the future demanded for the sake of Chloe and Noah, anchored by a love that had grown from concern into a deep familial bond. The days following Sarah's promise to Chloe and Noah's mother were heavy with contemplation and emotion. She found herself grappling with a mixture of profound sadness for the woman's deteriorating health and an emerging sense of purpose as she considered the future of the children. The weight of her commitment was both a burden and a blessing, intertwining with the threads of her own unfulfilled desires. One quiet evening, after closing the store, Sarah sat at the kitchen table with Tom, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had long gone cold. The silence between them was thick, charged with unspoken thoughts, until Sarah finally broke it. Tom, I've been thinking about the children, about what we discussed before, she started, her voice tinged with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Tom looked up, his eyes gentle. I know, Sarah. It's a lot to take on, but I see how you are with them, how they look at you. They need someone, and we can be those people. Sarah nodded, her heart aching as she remembered her own struggles. I always wanted this, you know. We tried. I tried so hard to have a child of our own. Her voice cracked, a testament to the years of silent grieving over the child they never had. Tom reached across the table, taking her hand in his. I know, love, and maybe this is how it was meant to be. Maybe all that heartache was leading us to this point, to Chloe and Noah. Sarah squeezed his hand, finding solace in his words. It feels right, doesn't it? To open our home, our lives to them. Their mother asked me to make sure they'd be okay. She doesn't have much time left. It's a big step, but it's the right one. We can give them the life they deserve, the love they need, Tom affirmed, his voice steady. And in doing so, maybe we find a piece of what we've lost, what we thought we'd never have. The conversation lingered into the night, each sharing their fears and hopes. Sarah felt a resurgence of maternal love, a fervent desire to nurture and protect, which she had suppressed after their attempts to have children of their own had ended in quiet sorrow. The next day, Sarah visited the lawyer who had handled her business contracts to discuss the legalities of becoming a guardian or possibly adopting Chloe and Noah. She wanted everything to be in place to ensure that no bureaucratic hurdle could interfere with the promise she had made. Mrs. Mitchell, based on what you've told me, you and your husband can apply to be legal guardians now, and should you choose, later you can petition for adoption, the lawyer explained, laying out the documents that detailed the process. Sarah listened intently, her mind racing with plans and preparations. As she left the office, a sense of determination filled her. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead to ensure Chloe and Noah's well-being and happiness. Arriving home, she found Tom in the garden, and together they discussed transforming one of the spare rooms into a bedroom for the children. Each step they took, from picking out paint colors to choosing bed linens, was infused with an enthusiasm that had been missing from their lives for too long. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over their home, Sarah stood beside Tom, watching the colors change in the sky. "This is a new beginning for all of us," she whispered, her heart full of love and readiness for the journey ahead. The morning at Sarah's store was bustling with the usual flurry of activity. Chloe and Noah were helping sort the fruit section, their laughter blending with the chime of the store's door and the friendly banter of the regular customers. Sarah watched them with a fond smile, her heart swelling with pride at how quickly they had adapted and how much joy they brought to her daily life. Suddenly, the phone rang, cutting through the noise of the store and pulling Sarah's attention away. She excused herself and answered, her expression turning serious as she recognized Judy's voice on the other end, laced with urgency and worry. "Sarah, you need to come now," Judy said, her voice strained. "It's their mother. She's taken a turn for the worse, and she's asking for the children. She wants to see them right away." Sarah's heart sank. She glanced over at Chloe and Noah, momentarily at a loss for words. "We'll be there as soon as we can," she managed to say before hanging up. Turning to the children, she mustered a gentle smile. "Chloe, Noah, we need to go see your mother. She's not feeling well, and she wants to see us." Chloe's face immediately filled with concern, and Noah grabbed her hand, both sensing the seriousness of the situation. Sarah hurriedly arranged for her assistant to take over the store and led the children to the car. The drive was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Sarah rehearsed how to comfort the children, knowing the visit might be a painful one. Upon arrival, they found their mother looking frail and tired, but her eyes brightened at the sight of Chloe and Noah. With all her remaining strength, she reached out her arms, and the children rushed to her side, holding her hands gently. "Chloe, Noah," their mother began, her voice weak but filled with love. "I'm so sorry for all the tough times you've had to go through. I wish I could do more, be here longer with you both." Chloe, tears brimming in her eyes, squeezed her mother's hand. "We love you, Mom. You took care of us." Noah, usually quiet, added softly, "Thank you, Mom." Their mother smiled, a tear escaping her eye. "I love you both so very much, and I know Sarah will take wonderful care of you. She's a kind woman with a big heart. Please do your best to listen to her, behave, and grow up to be wonderful people. Make yourselves and Sarah proud." Sarah, standing by the bedside, felt a profound connection and responsibility, her eyes also moist with tears. "I promise I will take care of them as if they were my own," she said, her voice firm with commitment. Their mother nodded, looking relieved and content with Sarah's promise. "I trust you, dear," she whispered. The room filled with a heavy silence, a mix of sorrow and gratitude hanging in the air. Sarah gently ushered the children to give their mother some rest, promising they could visit again soon. As they left the room, Sarah held Chloe and Noah close, ready to support them through the impending loss and the journey ahead. She knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with challenges, but also with immense love and new opportunities. Late that evening, after Chloe and Noah had gone to bed, Sarah received a phone call that she had dreaded yet anticipated. It was Judy, her voice soft and somber, delivering the news that the children's mother had passed away peacefully in her sleep. The weight of this moment sat heavy on Sarah's heart as she hung up the phone. She knew that tomorrow she would have to face the children with this heartbreaking news, a task for which no one could ever be fully prepared. The next morning, Sarah made breakfast as usual, the smell of pancakes filling the kitchen. Chloe and Noah came downstairs, their eyes sleepy, unaware of the sorrowful news that awaited them. Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself as she called them to sit at the table. "Chloe, Noah, I need to talk to you about something important," Sarah began, her voice gentle. The children looked up, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "Last night, your mother went asleep and she didn't wake up. She's passed away." Chloe's fork clattered to her plate, her eyes wide and teary. Noah looked down, his small hand balling into a fist. The room was filled with a stifling silence, each trying to process the pain in their own way. Sarah knelt beside their chairs, taking each of their hands in hers. "I know this is very hard, and it's okay to be sad. Your mom loved you very much, and she was so proud of how brave you both are." Chloe sobbed, leaning into Sarah, while Noah remained silent, tears streaming down his face. Sarah hugged them tightly, her own eyes not dry. After a few moments, she pulled back to look at them both. "I want you to know something very important," Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "I made a promise to your mom, and I'm making it to you now. You are not alone. I am here for you, and I will always be here for you. You are a part of our family now, and nothing will ever change that." Chloe looked up, her voice quivering. "Really? You're not just saying that?" Sarah smiled, wiping away Chloe's tears. "Really? You and Noah mean the world to me. I will take care of you just like you were my own children. That's a promise." Noah, who had been quiet, finally spoke, his voice small. "Thank you, Sarah." The rest of the day was quiet and somber. Sarah arranged for them to see a counselor, knowing the road to healing would be long and hard. She took care of the funeral arrangements, ensuring that the children's mother was remembered with love and dignity. That evening, as they sat quietly in the living room, Sarah read to them from one of their favorite books, her voice soothing in the calm of the room. It wasn't just a day-end routine, but a reaffirmation of the new family they had become, bound not by blood but by love, promise, and a shared future. As night fell and the house quieted down, Sarah checked on Chloe and Noah, who were finally asleep, their faces peaceful despite the day's grief. Watching them, Sarah felt a renewed sense of commitment. She whispered into the quiet room, "I will do everything to make you proud, to keep my promise, to give you the life and love you deserve." With that vow lingering in the still air, Sarah turned out the light, the contours of her new life with Chloe and Noah taking shape in the shadows of the night, filled with challenges but brightened by the hope of a better tomorrow. Months had passed since the children's mother had left them in Sarah's care. In that time, Sarah and Tom had officially become the legal guardians of Chloe and Noah, and their home had transformed into a lively, loving environment filled with the laughter and energy of the children. On a bright Saturday morning, the family gathered in the kitchen, the aroma of freshly baked cookies filling the air. Chloe and Noah, now more settled and confident, were eagerly helping Sarah prepare for a small gathering they were hosting to celebrate the finalization of the guardianship. "Can I put the chocolate chips on top, Sarah?" Chloe asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Of course, sweetheart. You're the chief decorator today," Sarah replied with a smile, watching as Chloe carefully placed chocolate chips on each cookie. Noah, not to be outdone, was busy arranging the napkins and plates. "We should make a fort in the living room later," he suggested, his voice full of enthusiasm. "I think that's a wonderful idea," Tom chimed in, entering the kitchen with a box of decorations. "After our guests leave, it'll be fort building time. What do you say, team?" "Yay!" The children cheered, their faces alight with joy. As the day progressed, friends and neighbors came and went, each one commenting on how much happiness the children brought to Sarah and Tom's home and how complete the family now seemed. Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment, her heart swelling with pride and love for her new family. After the last guest had left, Sarah sat down on the sofa, pulling Chloe and Noah close. "Did you have fun today?" she asked, wrapping an arm around each of them. "Yes, it was the best day," Noah said, his eyes tired but happy. Chloe nodded, leaning against Sarah. "Thank you for making us a real family," she whispered. Sarah kissed the top of her head. "You've made us a real family too. You and Noah are the best things that have ever happened to us." Tom sat beside them, adding, "We're going to have so many more days like this, and one day you'll both look back and remember how much you were loved and how you made our lives complete." The conversation turned to dreams and futures. Chloe spoke of wanting to be a teacher, while Noah expressed his desire to become a veterinarian. Sarah and Tom listened, encouraging their ambitions and promising to support them every step of the way. As night fell, they built a giant fort in the living room as promised, draping sheets over chairs and couches, filling the space with pillows and blankets. Under the soft glow of string lights, the family huddled together, reading stories and sharing laughs. Sarah looked around at their little sanctuary, her heart full. Here, in this makeshift castle, they were more than just guardians and children. They were a family, bound by love, commitment, and the shared promise of always being there for one another. As Chloe and Noah eventually drifted off to sleep, their heads resting against her, Sarah whispered into the quiet, "We did it, Tom. We're really doing it." Tom squeezed her hand, whispering back, "We're just getting started." In the end, the Mitchells' home was filled not just with memories of what had been lost, but with the hope and laughter of what was and what was yet to come. Their lives had taken a direction none of them could have anticipated, but one that they embraced wholeheartedly, knowing they were exactly where they were meant to be. If you like this story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And this video suggested below will certainly surprise you. Have a good session and see you in the next story.